Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name's Lorena. I'm the VP of AIAS at Roger Williams, and I'm just going to be the panelist for this lecture. So I am so excited to introduce Lorenco Gimenes. He is the founding partner of FGMF Architects, and he is our guest speaker. So FGMF Architects was created in 1999, and it's based out of São Paulo, Brazil. I was first introduced to FGMF during my trip to Brazil, where I was sort of on a tour of architecture there. And I visited their project called Japan House, which won the 2018 Prix Versailles International Prize for Latin and Southern America. So I was later formally introduced to Lorenco, as well as his other partners, Fernando and Rodrigo. And so I noticed that their projects have like this amazing organic relationship with the world around them. And they address culture, external issues, politics, and of course, nature and the built environment. So in this lecture, Lorenco will share his idea about architecture and nature, the relationship between the built and natural environment, through the works of FGMF architects. And I just wanted to comment that you guys can put all of your questions into the Q&A, the button at the bottom. So without further ado, please welcome Lorenco Gimenes.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me fine? Hopefully. Well, thanks, Lorena, for the invitation. Nathan and everybody that's attending this presentation. First of all, I would like to excuse myself. My English is not perfect, it's not very good, but I'll try to make my best effort to show some of our projects. Maybe some words will be missing, and maybe I'll need some help from Lorena, who speaks Portuguese. I understand. And well, when we were invited for this presentation, I suggested a couple of titles for the presentation, and your staff chose this theme, architecture and nature, and I understand that's maybe because Brazil is mostly known for its exuberant nature, and sometimes when we think of Brazil, at least that's what I understand from people, from foreigners, from people outside Brazil, is they think about Brazil as being a very natural environment and very interesting climate and generous people and happy place, warm, and most of it is actually true. But we have a very complex society here in Brazil, very complex situation at the moment, especially. I would like to share with you my presentation, and please make yourselves comfortable to interrupt me if you have any questions about or regarding Brazil or regarding the architecture I'm showing to you. Let me share my screen. I hope that this presentation will flow smooth and will get easier for me when I start talking, because it's not always very easy to speak a foreign language. So I hope you excuse me if I'm not making myself very clear. I'm by far, so hi, this is me. I'm sharing my screen with you. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you see you see the window to the right with the participants, or just me, Lorena?
No, it's just you and your presentation.
Cool. Okay, so when we think of Brazil, one of the most interesting assets we can think of is its nature and its generous climate. It's actually a big part of Brazil is wild, it's natural, but it's not exactly like this where we live in. We live in big cities, most of it. Brazil is a very urban country. More than 85% of its population live in big cities, or live in cities actually. And we have in Brazil the biggest cities in the southern hemisphere. For example, São Paulo to your left is a metropolis of around 22 million people. So it's about the same size of big metropolises in America. For example, Rio de Janeiro to your left, to your right, I'm sorry, is also a big city, but it's drastically different from São Paulo regarding its nature. And there's something about Rio de Janeiro that makes us think about how we actually create a dialogue between the built and the natural environment. Rio de Janeiro, differently from São Paulo, which is a very it's a densely occupied territory and very with an occupation that occurred mainly in the 20th century, that disregards the natural and geographic assets throughout its growth pattern. And Rio de Janeiro, on the contrary, is a city that was made possible just exactly because the occupation was human occupation was made most of the part respecting and creating a dialogue between its hills and sea and its forests. So it's a very interesting city, Rio de Janeiro. I'm not saying that because I'm Brazilian, but I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Certainly one of the most interesting cities in the world, and I strongly recommend you that if you come down to South America, just stop by Rio de Janeiro. But I live here in São Paulo, which is not the Amazon. It's quite different from what you may think of Brazil as being a wild territory full of animals and jungle, rainforests, and etc. We actually live in a city that is not only quite dense in terms of occupation, but also quite interesting. We have something that even I didn't suspect was that strong a couple of years ago. We have a strong graffiti tourism. For example, we have people from all around the world coming to see things that we from São Paulo, we from Brazil, most of the time don't even pay attention to. So it's a very diverse city. It's a very diverse population as well. We have, for example, in Brazil, the biggest Japanese colony in the world. We have the second biggest Jewish and Italian colonies in the world. We have a large Chinese and Spanish and population. So Brazil is São Paulo specifically is really a melting pot, culturally speaking. But we don't necessarily have only the best or the most interesting things to talk about. I would like to share with you some of our current drama here in Brazil. We have a country that is always trying to make the best of itself, but also always being reckless at the same time. Back in 2009, for example, Brazil was one of the most important or most the fastest growing countries in the world, and went through the 2008 crisis, for example, in a far better situation than most major economies in the world. Actually, Brazil by then was, I think, was the 7th or 6th growth economy, biggest economy in the world, and now we kind of managed to get back to the 12th position in that term, in terms of economy. And Brazil is going through a very complicated moment in many senses. And why I'm talking about it is because we have a buffoon as a president, a very, I actually can explain to you, because I don't even understand how he got elected, but I think, well, he's part of this zeitgeist that's all around the world, with this far right, extreme far right ascension, risal in the last years, and it was not different from many countries in the world, such as Italy, for example, Austria, and Netherlands have very close, have very tight elections with the far right. France also had as well a couple of years ago. We're having countries such as the Philippines or Hungary, Poland with far right governments, and well, I don't want to create a polemic or discuss American politics as well, but you had until last year also your share of you know, a very peculiar, very particular type of government and type of president running your politics also in America. So Jair Bolsonaro was elected a couple of years ago in 2018, and now he's doing a very very bad job in all terms, in every term. In this picture, you can see this motorcycle. How can I say that, Lorena? People meet to support the politician or something like. He runs with his motorcycle in many cities in Brazil, trying to make people to run with him, exactly like Mussolini, as the picture to your left, did back in the 30s and 40s in Italy. So this is the type of politician we have right now. And why I'm showing and discussing this is because it has a very relevant impact in Brazil in economic terms as well, undoubtedly, but also in terms of our environment. Jair Bolsonaro has the most, has the worst politics, policies ever in environmental terms. We're burning down our forests. We're creating we're creating strong problems with indigenous populations. We're really kind of making our best natural resources. How can I say that? One of the least interesting things for the government. On the contrary, it's trying to make the worst of it. So if we're discussing nature and architecture, I think we have to look at the environment as a whole, not only as how architecture relates and creates a relationship or a dialogue to its immediate environment. But we have to ask ourselves, since architecture is a very political profession, we have to ask ourselves, how do we understand our policies in a wider scheme, in a wider perspective? Not only look at the architecture we're doing. I'm not sure how familiar you are to Brazilian architecture. We have very famous, well, a few famous architects. One of them, Oscar Niemeyer, was one of the most relevant architectural figures, architecture personas in the 20th century. He died at a very old age, I believe 102 or 104 years old, and he did some of our most known architecture masterpieces in Brazil. He did a lot of an interesting architecture as well, but he's no doubt one of the most important architects in the 20th century. But we also have architects such as Paulo Mendes da Rocha, which is also a Pritzker. He won the 2006 Pritzker, for example. He's a very interesting. He just passed away this I guess 2021. I think this year he passed away. He did a very brutalist type of architecture using a lot of concrete, a lot of very hard interventions in the landscape, but also trying to do a very clever in terms of structure, architecture, which he learned a lot from Vila Nova Artigas, which is also a very locally known architect, especially in São Paulo, which is, I would say, the cradle of the brutalism in Brazil, and kind of contrasts with Niemeyer's, how can I say, sinuous lines and very curvy architecture, very sexy architect, certainly sexier than Artigas and Paulo Mendes da Rocha type of architecture. This image shows the faculty of architecture from the University of São Paulo. Lorena, did you have the chance to visit this building?
I did not, unfortunately.
Well, next time, make sure you do. It's a very interesting building. This is where I studied. It belongs to the University of São Paulo, where I did my undergrad studies and master's and PhD as well. So I'm going to show some of the some projects that we have been doing these last years. But first of all, let me introduce our practice. These are the three founding partners. This is me to the left, the best looking, of course, the three. And this is Rodrigo. This is Fernando. We met each other the first year when we got to architecture school. We became friends, and then we started working when we were in the fourth year. From 5 years, we started working together illegally, of course, doing illegal practice, which I, by the way, recommend. I can say that because you're in America, so nobody can sue me. But I understand that architecture is a very peculiar profession that demands a lot of practice, demands of praxis, and the more you do, the better you understand where you want to get to. It's a very difficult profession, as you might have noticed already. You have to deal with very intricate and deep and dense technical issues, as well as understanding the position of every architecture we do in terms of cultural building, or building a culture, let me say it better. Every architecture we do as architects is meant to be part of a cultural environment that lasts for decades, if not for centuries. So we have to understand that every architecture we do must be critical and must express the best, how can I say that? Must express the best discourse that we can have in terms of politics, in terms of technical, in terms of technology, in terms of culture. It expresses basically how the tools we have to show how we think at that time and that period in history. So no matter the architecture is big or small in scale, it has to express our thought and the vision that that our generation has using the tools we have available. So these are the partners that founded the practice, but actually the practice, the heart of the practice is the heart of everybody that's part of our team. And we're now, this picture is a bit out of date already. We have some new people here working with us in the last 1-2 years. During the pandemics, we kind of grew our staff considerably. But this, and we now are around 80 to 90 people in the office nowadays. And we divide in different areas that I'm going to show to you a little bit. So we have people working in architecture designs that range from high-rise buildings to houses or shops or whatever. We have a team that is focused in interior design. We have a group of people focused in construction works. That means that we serve in the construction. We're always close to the construction sites to make sure everything that we designed and we planned in the project will be built exactly how we did it, how we thought of it, and discussed with the clients, etc. So we have, I would say, like 7 or 8 people that whose task is to be present in every construction site that we have for our projects. We also have a small team focused in industrial design, designing mostly furniture for not only for our projects but also for shops and to be sold in shops and etc. in furniture stores. So we have and we have the an urbanism urban planning division as well, which is not very big in size and staff, but is doing some interesting work. These are some works that we've been working on with the industrial design team. Most of them are furniture. Some of these pieces were born for specific projects. For example, this chair we designed with another furniture designer here in São Paulo. Was meant to be, actually it was part of a restaurant in Miami called Farofa, a Brazilian restaurant that they I'm not sure if the restaurant still exists, but nevertheless we did the project and the design, and we designed the furniture as well, and now the furniture is sold on a furniture shop in Brazil. Some of the furniture or sofas or chairs or whatever are designed for specific projects and then turned into a production design. We do interior design for hotels, for companies, for shops, for houses, for example. We do medium scale projects, especially houses and shops. And we do high-rise buildings or a bigger type of architecture, mostly urban type of architecture. Some of them are high-rise, some of them are lower. And we do urban design in different scales as well, such as greenfield occupations or how can I say, urban interventions in consolidated urban fabrics. So the first project I want to show to you is a house that we did a couple of years ago in a very interesting environment. This area is, how can I say that? I'm not sure how to say that in acres or square feet, but it's 500,000 square meters. Can you help me with that, Lorena? So it's a big area covered with most of it covered with jungle, and part of it, which is 65,000 square meters, is was a former pasture. So it was already the trees had already been cut off, and we have this type of landscape when we first got to the site, and it's when we get to the top of the hills, this is the type of view that we have. So it's a very interesting situation to design. And the first thing that we thought of, actually the client demanded it, asked for it, was to have a house with this view, which is very beautiful, of course, a very long side over the mountains, close to São Paulo. So we're talking about an area, I would say like 2.5 hours ride from São Paulo in car. And part of the, you can see here in the left side of the image, a dense and very natural and virgin jungle. In this jungle, for example, we have pumas, we have, I think the best translation would be jaguar. We have jaguars, we have monkeys living in this jungle, like big monkeys, 1.2 meter tall. The biggest monkeys in America, they live in this area. Unfortunately, we never had the chance to see the monkeys using the house. Unfortunately, that would be quite fun. I think you understand why when you see the house. But the story I want to share with you here is that we had to go to this area a couple times before reaching the final solution. And when we visited the area, we always did a different route. We went to the left and contouring the small hill. We went through the jungle. We went to see the small riverbed that is behind this little hill. We went to the top of the hill and different areas of the plot, but we always met at this point, at this rock that is sitting right here at this area. You can see my mouth, right? My.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. And we always kind of, even when we split it, we always met and came back to this very area here, and we understood that the plot was telling us something, how to organize the program here, how to organize a house in this crazy plot, which is fairly big, and most of it is covered with jungle and etc. But it has crazy views, and it has a fantastic relationship with the jungle. So, and this is a plan of the site. This light green area that you see is around 60, or I think it's around 700 square feet, maybe 65,000 square meters. This area here, okay. I hope you can see the curves, so you can guess that this is the hill that we saw in the former pictures, and this is precisely where the rock where we always finished our tour is sitting. And this is the entrance of the. And then we decided that, or realized that to intervene in such a incredible area surrounded by nature would be something very difficult to come up with an architecture that could rivalize or create a sensation that architecture should be more important than the nature surrounding it. So our let me show you. So our scheme for the house was to create a house that was kind of floating in this area where the rock is, and kind of creating a possibility for further routes. So we can pass beneath the house, or through the main floor of the house, or using the top of the house as part of this landscape. So the house kind of converts itself in part of its landscape, creating a relationship where it's very clear what's human, what's natural, but at the same time, the two belong together in this new system, let's say like this. The house is built with different building solutions or construction methods. We have concrete pillars that kind of follow the natural topography, and which are interesting because it's a very humid area with a lot of rain. So the contact from the house of the house with the soil is mostly done by concrete blocks. So this concrete pillars, concrete columns that you see here, which support a grid of wood and steel beams. So sometimes we subtract a row of columns and substitute the wood beams and pillars with a steel beam, and the whole house was planned and was built using a module of 5.5 meters by 5.5 meters by 3 meters in height. And with this module, we solved all the program and solved all the spaces, but especially the unbuilt spaces that you're going to see in the next pictures. And also we have this the contact from the house to the soil and to the topography is also solved with rock walls. So I'm sorry, some words don't come easily to me right now, but these are walls to hold the earth, and they're built with rocks that were excavated on site. This is a small video from a long time ago that kind of shows some basic elements of the house. So we have these columns, the concrete columns, some of the steel beams, and then the wood grid, and that's why the house is called the grid house. And it's a house for a family, so we can house each of the three sons had two bedrooms. They are accommodated in the grid, and then the guest bedroom and the main bedroom is located on this part to the right here. But the house, basically, these are pictures from before the house was ready, the construction was ready, but they already show what's basically the most important part of the project for us, which are the voids that establish this contact and direct relationship to the earth, to the sky, the landscape surrounding it. And thus, as a result, we have a house that is basically part of the landscape, part of the environment, although it's clearly made by humans, not natural, but it's creating a relationship. And this is how we understand that architecture in Brazil for a natural environment such as this one should behave. We have to not only respect the environment and try to create the best relationship we have with the landscape, but also try to create a dialogue. This is a picture that's very interesting because it shows inside of a Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle that was used to reach the house, because sometimes during construction work, the only car that would go up the mountain and reach the plot was this old Beetle. So 4x4 wheel cars did not make it to the construction, but the old Beetle did. And sometimes we had to ride with Emerson, which is the guy that owned the Beetle and took us to see the construction work. It was a very difficult situation to build in. It's in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes the clouds, it's very high because it's on the hills. Sometimes the clouds would pass through the side. Sometimes you couldn't see like 6 feet in front of our eyes. And the other day was super warm with a very hard sun. So it's a very intensely changing climate there. These are some pictures from the construction showing the first steps, the walls that hold the earth in some points of the projects, the concrete pillars, concrete columns. These are the stone walls. And then we have the beams and columns of wood that were mounted on the site. This is the housekeeper's house in the area, also made with the same rocks excavated from site. And these are some more recent pictures of the house, which I like to see and to understand that nature is growing inside these this voice that we created in the grid, and making this kind of continuous situation where the vegetation is part of the house as well. The soil is part of the house. The topography is part of the house. And then we have here a video that shows the natural environment around the house and how the house sits in this natural environment, creating this possibility of different scales where you can see from the house and to the house, but always understanding the house as part of something bigger. This house could not be built anywhere else. It was built for this site and nowhere else. This is the part that was built on the hilltop, looking at this amazing view that I showed to you. And the main house is sitting on this sort of a valley, making it possible for it to cross beneath the house and on top of the house. And the house actually is not an object; it's a landscape. I like to refer to this house not as a built object on a landscape, but the building of a specific landscape with a human intervention, respecting and emphasizing the importance of nature behind around it. Let me get a little bit back here. This is the rock that I showed to you in the first pictures. This is the rock that we preserved here, and the rock that you can jump from the house on top of the rock, and it's escalated and sitting right here beneath the house. We kind of preserved it to show exactly how the original topography was. And this is how the house relates to the natural environment around it. It's totally glass, except of course the bathrooms and parts of the bathrooms, but most of the social part of the house is just glass and treetops. And this is how it sits on the landscape. And I'm sorry if I'm being too repetitive, but I like to understand the house as an intervention in a specific landscape, trying to bring the best of the previous existence around the house, but also trying to contribute to it, adding some exchange. So we don't understand that architecture should vanish or should pretend it's not there. But at the same time, I don't understand that in such a luxurious natural environment, we should do some type of architecture that tries to stand more important than the natural environment around it. The second project I want to show you is how we understand that nature should be part of architecture, even in a more urban scheme. And this project is an office building. It's an office building in São Paulo. On a neighborhood that was built in mostly in the 40s and 50s, but it was like a suburban area in São Paulo city. But nowadays is totally integrated to the city. So the city grew so dramatically in the last decades throughout 20th century that this area that was originally a suburb actually is now very central to the city. And it's also part of the city that in the last 3 or 2 decades have switched from a residential area to a more commercial or mixed-use area. This is Vila Madalena in São Paulo, part of this neighborhood that has a lot of bars and restaurants, creative economy, and etc. And this is where our client decided to buy this crazy shaped plot to build a commercial building, to build an office building. And we did the project for this plot. It was a preliminary concept sketch phase, but at the end, our client was not able to buy all these plots. There were different plots owned by different people. So one of the plots was not bought, and we developed a project for this even crazier looking plot with like twice 12-meter front here, but most of the plot is developing to the back. To the right, we have a park, a big plaza, and a stream. It's called Coruja Stream. This owl stream, owl the animal, the bird. This is how we named the building. But at the end, the project we did for this plot was not possible to be built because it was too expensive. Because exactly the existence of the stream in the back, and all the works and spaces in the underground for garage and etc. They were getting too expensive because of this perimeter here. So this perimeter made the entire project impossible to be built. And then the client bought some extra area, so the underground would be easier to, in terms of geometric form, could be more efficiently built. And then the project kind of grew in size, and we have to start the project all over again. We had already issued the construction documents, so you can imagine like 1.5 to 2 year work, and we have to throw that away and start over again. And the project's basically, if we see a typical section of the project, we have this ground level that's connecting to the street. The side has a slope to the back, so it goes down to the back, and then we have the possibility to build also some area in the lower ground at the underground pavement, the underground floor that connects to the garden in the back. And something and we were able to build only 9 meter in height for this project, for this area. And most of the project is organized in 3 main parts. So we have the street is in the front side, in the front of the picture here. We have the entrance. We have a 3-story high lobby. Then we have this one of the blocks to the left here with different office areas, independent office areas connected by external circulation, external aisles that run around, connect all the blocks. This is interesting because we can actually see people walking through the aisles. It's different from a traditional glass tower that we can see in many other commercial districts or corporate districts in São Paulo. This is totally different in terms of typology, not only because it's slow and the circulation is external, but also because it has a very interesting set of outside spaces that are very valuable, not only to the developer, but to people that work there. This is a type of building. This is a type of building that that values the outside space, space where people can work in a different way and taking advantage of being in São Paulo, which is some mild temperature. We have in average 24 degrees Celsius throughout the year. Some very few days in winter we can get to like 5 degrees Celsius or 10 degrees Celsius, but it's very rare. And some days during summer it goes up to 32 or something like that degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, I don't know the degrees in Fahrenheit, but I hope you understand that. So it's
25 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so it's a kind of pleasant temperature to be outside, to work outside, to do meetings and to, you know, just to bring your laptop and work on a different situation than you would do on a traditional or conventional office building. And it's actually very interesting to see that people value working in this building. It has a very interesting commercial value as well. So the developer has very good returns in rents because people want to work in an environment such as this one. And bringing gardens and verandas where you can work, where you can stay, where you can, you know, just open your windows and let the air flow naturally instead of relying on air conditioning all the time. So this is something that has proved to be very efficient in market terms in São Paulo. This building was the first of its kind here in São Paulo and was a very successful example. And now we have a lot of clients that come to us and say, we want to do a little Corujas building in this other neighborhood. We want to do something like this in this other city or in this other town, because actually they get a lot of they get a very interesting rent rate for this building. People work happier. People want to work here, and there's always a line of people that want to rent a space here. So we're very we use this as an example for developers that we can build differently. And I'm not asking you to like it or not, but this is different from what we usually have as office space in São Paulo, which are traditional glass towers that you can see in every big city around the world. So it's soulless, meaningless towers most of the time. And this is an environment where people can see each other, people can meet. We know people that met in this building that got married after that. They never sued us, so I think they are happy now. But they met in the building, and people actually meet in the building and do business together, because you have an advertisement agency here, they have the photographer that rents another space there. We have technology companies such as Spotify is located in this building. We have real estate developers, we have designers, and we have people from all types of creative industries that actually complement each other. So we have this collaboration ambiance in the building that is very interesting. Something that you can see from our architecture, from the previous example, and also here, is that we like to use construction materials and structural solutions as part of our architecture. We understand that the way you build some architecture is also the way it should look like. So in this building, as you can see, we use a mix of prefab concrete columns, steel beams, and wood here is not structure, is not construction method, but we can see all these materials working together, such as in the grid house that I showed you. You have the stone masonry, we have the wood beams, the metal beams, and the concrete. They all work together doing a specific part of the project, and they all are shown as part of the solution as well. And we always want to look outside from the space we're designing. Actually, designing for us, especially here in Brazil, if we understand that we have a very pleasant climate and situation, is something that we can take advantage of, and doing more generous and open spaces integrated to the outside, creating gardens that are not outside the architecture, but are part of the architecture. Something that you look onto the architecture through the garden and look to the garden through the architecture, not as being separated areas or parts of the project. This next project I want to show to you is a project that we're doing for a small plaza. So it's a public space in São Paulo. This is the city of São Paulo. It looks kind of a dog. And this is the main central area of the city. This gray here. This is the area of Pinheiros, the district where our office is, and some big CBDs in São Paulo as well. In gray, you see the occupation, the urbanized area in the city. So it's a huge city in terms of occupation. It's a sprawled, very sprawled city. If we take into account the overall surface, is a very it's a very low density territory. Some districts in the central area are denser, but in general terms, São Paulo is a very low density area. This plaza is in this small orange spot here in the middle. We can see here Avenida Paulista is one of the most important, I'm sorry, it's here. Avenues in the city. Here you have Avenida Faria Lima. It's also a very important tertiary economy CBD. We have parks such as Ibirapuera, Villa Lobos, then we have the campus of the University of São Paulo here, and actually, and here is the downtown area. So we are sitting right here in this area, close to big avenues, but also inside consolidated neighborhood. And it has, as you can see here, is a fairly dense area, but it has no public space here. There's very little amount of green and qualified urban areas and urban free space for people. We have some districts, for example, this one here, Jardim Paulistano, which is a fairly green area, low density housing district, for example, and also this area here. But the district of Pinheiros here is a denser and denser district and has no public space. Our client bought this crazy shaped area, and he is a private client. It's not public. This contract. This contract is not with the municipality nor any public actor. So this client is a very wealthy guy, and he decided to build a public space open to the city, which is kind of super opportunity for us to think on how we should design, or how we could design and transform the city by doing public spaces. It is sitting very close to old water rivers, old rivers that ran through this area that are now channelized, and we cannot see these water assets in our original landscape, because most of them are either channelized, are covered, or polluted, such as Rio Pinheiros. We have a very bad historical relationship in São Paulo with our natural assets, natural environments. And this area is sitting in part of this original stream that is also part of this flooding area of the stream. And it's, as you can see here, this ZEU area, the zoning area, is a high density area from the last strategic master plan of São Paulo, which is basically, as you can see here, this brown line here is a subway line, the yellow line, and around big transit lines, such as bus corridors or subways, and etc. We have this high density area, so it kind of stimulates the mixed use and a higher density than other areas, because of the existence of transportation means around it. So this area is not only already built, but is being dramatically transformed since this last master plan from the municipality from a couple of years ago, from let's say like 6 years ago, which is transforming parts of this neighborhood that had not been transformed before, had not been built before. This is the Rebouças Avenue that I was showing to you. This is our plot. Let's just create a slice here. We have the subway line, and the subway station is very close to our site. And these are some of the plots that are under transformation in the last 5 to 6 years. So it's a very relevant change in density and in terms of use for this area, especially from this street here, Pinheiro Street, to this avenue. A lot of new buildings are being built, changing the density, changing the use of the city, bringing new people to live and to work here. And yet, this district has no plaza, has no urban space. The urban space, public space that we have are the sidewalks are not a big deal. Most of them are very badly kept and very badly designed. So doing a public plaza here is kind of interesting. So this is the place. Let me get back here, sorry. This block here, as you can see, is a very low-rise construction type of block. So small houses, small working class houses from the 50s, from the 40s and 50s. And one of the streets, it kind of looks like that. So we're very close to mass transportation facilities, and yet sometimes in some streets you have this very crazy looking streets, very narrow streets with small houses and etc. This is one of the houses that is part of the project. Is that blue is this blue gate here that you can see. In the other street, this is the entrance to the plaza. So this white gate and then this shop, they're now part of the project that I'm going to show to you. And the third street is also made by small houses, old houses from the 40s, working class houses that are now converted into shops. The entrance to our project are these two houses here that you can see, this purple one and the striped one. And this is inside of the block. So parts of the plots that were bought, they kind of create this open space inside the block, creating thus a possibility to cross the block using this area, but also creating this sort of a mysterious and very secret hideout in the city. So the plaza started with this sense of creating a hideout, a mysterious and very interesting place where you would find on a walk through the city, you have the glimpse of something going on inside the block. Then you go inside and you find something interesting. So you can see basically the back of the old houses here. And this is the street. This is the one of the exits, and we're going to tear down this small building here to the left. So this is the geometry of the plot. It's kind of crazy shaped plot, and creating these possibilities to reach the city, but also at the same time trying to create a reserved and protected environment inside of it. So this is the plot, and we have different situations outside the plot. So you have the small street with small houses here. The first picture showed you. Then the second picture, they have a bike lane, and then the more commercial street with the shops right here. So you have these two main entrances on the top and to the left. but you cannot go inside the plaza using the street here because it's a crazy, crazy thing in the legislation, in the rules right now, that do not allow streets with less than 8-meter wide width to have other use than residential use. So if the plaza has a restaurant and a cafe or an auditorium, etc., so it's not a residential use, then you're not allowed to have an access from the street meter, which is a pity. But yet we still have this the main plaza and the accesses to the other two houses, the other two streets. And one thing that we wanted to create is the possibility to have a glimpse inside the plaza, to have the first space, this linear space, the entrance space, that would suggest something going on inside the block. That would capture your attention and then drive your curiosity to enter the site, to enter and get close to this construction. So creating sort of portals that would make you go inside the plaza. So the plaza is composed by different parts. This first part here is a water plaza, trying to refer to the original topography of the site as being part of the flooding area of the stream. Then you have a different plaza that opens to the other street that is meant to be part of this commercial environment, making space for people to sit and have an ice cream, or to wait someone else, or just to sit after lunch and wait for your time to go back to the office, and etc. And then we have this this bleacher that looks onto the main part of the plaza. And then you have the underground, which is also accessible by a bleacher and an elevator, and creates an auditorium in the underground. And then finally, to the left here, you have a cafe, a restaurant that opens to the main plaza. So this is, and then we have the an upper floor, which is a terrace on top of the cafe, and then a small shop on top of the first plaza, a bookshop. And then the last layer of this plaza is a system of pergola with vegetation growing widely from vases and areas suspended on above the plaza. So it's not a plaza that you can see the vegetation as part of as being the traditional trees in the middle of a plaza, but rather is something that you have a different contact with nature, something that's also providing shades, but is growing in the air, something that is water, but you have to cross on top of the waters, just not a pond in the back of the plaza is something that you have to cross. I'm going to show it to you. Then you have this vegetation that is growing in a very tropical way from the top of these cantilevered canopies. Well, I'm going to show it quickly because we're running out of time. But then you have the cafe, the main plaza, and etc. And then you have the underground floor. Here you have on the bottom of your screen, you have this small street, the more commercial street on top, and then to the left, the third street. And the ground floor, the underground floor is this auditorium and an underground garden with this bleacher, this access bleacher, which is a stair and also a bleacher. The main floor Then you have access to a cafe that opens to the main plaza. This water plaza that lets you in and invites you and creates this very linear view towards the main plaza. So when you walk on the street and you pass, you ride your bicycle here, and you look inside, you can see a crazy looking plaza, but then this portal, this gate that shows something behind it, covered with this canopies and with a lot of vegetation and such. And then one floor up, you have the terrace on top of the cafe, a bridge that connects the main area to the main floor, to the main access, and on this street here, on top of the screen, which is basically 3 meters higher than the other entrance. This is why it was made possible. And then you have the shop on top of this access plaza, and then finally you have the other canopies. So this is a section, and the plaza was designed to work and to function in different days and times. So during the day, we'll have some people just waiting the time to go back to the office, for example, or grandmas and grandpas taking the strollers, the grandchildren's strollers to for a walk in the afternoon. But it's not a very dense occupation. Then the end of the day, people can meet. The children can meet to play. People can gather for happy hour after work. The same at night. People would find friends, meet friends, have dinner, or have a cafe, have a drink, or something like this. Or on the end, on weekends and event days, the area or the plaza could be occupied in different ways, and a small concert, on an art show, for example, on a book launch, and etc. These canopies were designed to contain this vegetation, but also as part of the system that can contain projectors, can hold panels for art exhibits, for example. They can be children, plays, etc. Lighting, sounds. So it's a kind of something that can be part of a system. And as an aspect of the plaza, we wanted to bring something very natural and wild, something very tropical and very Brazilian in terms of vegetation. But at the same time, we wanted to create this contrast with the built environment using raw concrete, apparent concrete, and this coolness and very rigidness of the concrete, kind of creating this contrast with the natural vegetation of Brazil. So this contrast is something that we wanted to bring into the project and make it a plaza that you can use in so many different ways, but without giving up the fact that we are in a very interesting tropical situation. So this is the view from the small street. So this is a cafe that has a big window opening towards the small street, but you cannot enter the cafe here, unfortunately. But it kind of creates this possibility of looking inside the cafe and then the main plaza on the other side. This is the one of the main entrances, the water plaza, and then you walk through this linear access, and then you see covered and sort of stimulated by the existence of this vegetation that's hanging very tropically, hanging from the canopies, showing that something's going on in the back and makes you change your way and decide to investigate and create your own adventure in the middle of the day, trying to understand what's going on in the back and surprising yourself when you find something unsuspected that you would never guess you'd find in São Paulo. This is the other entrance in the commercial street. You have this bookshop hanging on the top of this plaza with sitting areas and etc. And also you can see this vegetation is growing on the canopies, and you can see something's going on down there. And as you get close to it, you discover a wider space, discover a grass bleacher that you can see, you can sit and just have your, have an ice cream, or in the evenings see a projection of a movie on this wall in the back, or watch a small concert during the weekends or such. And here you have this small bridge that crosses the plaza, connecting the terrace of the cafe. And you would look onto the plaza from a different perspective as well. So it's a crazy shaped plaza, but also a vertical plaza. You have different layers. From the ground floor, this is also a small plaza. Then you have the main floor, and you have the commercial access, and then you have the upper floor from the shop and the terrace of the cafe. And nature here is brought as part of this contrast with the built environment, creating possibilities of shades, but also creating this different relationship to a very peculiar type of vegetation that we have in Brazil. This is the view from the cafe. So you can see here the grass bleacher, to the left the water plaza and the main plaza, and the way down to the auditorium here. This is a view from the other side, the cafe in the back, then the bridge, the auditorium in the underground, the stairway and bleacher, and then the water coming from the water plaza kind of falls here, create this water lake, and creates a different type of plaza that you'd find in São Paulo. This is what we expected from when we first designed this space, is trying to create something interesting, something that you wouldn't find anywhere else in the city. Something was obviously built for this space here, such as the other buildings that I showed you. Were built for specific plots, for specific environments, for a specific relationship with social and economic and environmental assets. And so this is it. I think we had 1.5 hours. I'm going to go very quickly through the last project, and then we can talk. This is a project that is a high-rise building. Let me get very quick to it. It has the first part of it. It has to be maximum 28-meter height because of the existence of these small houses in the back. It's called, a small dead-end street. Then you have to respect it 20 meters from this dead-end street. You have to respect the height limit of 28 meters. But then we tried to create this first block of 28 meters, like working as the envelope to an inner court This is a very busy street here, busy avenue in São Paulo. It's called Avenida Rebouças. This is also in the same neighborhood as the plaza. And then we're trying to create a relationship between a small corner plaza open to the city and an inner court that is continuation of this space, but much more protected from the noise and pollution from the avenue, trying to create a space that you can look inside. And then we decided to like throw some acid on it, not taking some acid, but rather dripping some acid on it and trying to melt it in different terraces. And as the Corujas building that I showed you, the commercial building that I showed you, having greenery, having green terraces as part of the private spaces is very interesting in commercial terms, but also is part of a bigger landscape. And something that I always like to think of is that the buildings that we see on the streets as we go by the city, go through the city, we only see the first 5 or 6 floors. This is how wide our perspective goes. You seldom look up to see the building in its totality. So the first part of the building, the first floors of the buildings for us are the most important ones, because they are not only are not owned by the people that actually work or live in these buildings, rather than is part of everyone else's landscape. So when we build a building, we have to have this conscience that we're transforming the landscape, an urban landscape, and bringing nature to a very rigid and arid type of city such as São Paulo is something that we understand is vital, is fundamental. So using these terraces as not only part of the private spaces of the people that work and live here, but also part of the landscape that belongs to everyone else. So we have shops on the ground floor. We have office space, some living space as well. And then we have this elevator and stairway tower here, and some bridges crossing this atrium. We have some common space for parties and pools for people that actually live in the building. And then we have the residential tower that can go higher than the 28 meters, because it's already far from the dead-end street. And then on top of it, a gym looking at a very interesting view from here. And this is the ground floor showing this small plaza that is also a buffer, something that protects the plaza within. People can sit and people can meet, they can wait and hold on. Then you have the access to the residential tower. Then you have the access to the commercial units. And then all these spaces in the ground floor, there are commercial areas. There are shops that open not only to the street, but also to the plaza inside it. This is the, this is a video done by the developer to showcase and to launch the building, and showing how it actually works in terms of landscape, in terms of private and public spaces, trying to melt the borders from what's city and what's private space. So this is something that is open to the city, although it's private space. And then you have, small lobbies to get inside the building and to reach the offices and apartments. This is basically the atrium and bridges, the public, the pool and party space on top of this 28-meter tower. And you have also here a bleacher looking to a very interesting landscape that we have on this area. You're gonna see in the rest of the movie. And then, as you could see in the other examples, these are the greenery and nature. Although we're in the middle of a very arid city such as São Paulo, the relationship to its outside spaces, to terraces, to gardens, trying to take advantage of the existence and the possibilities of having greenery in our architecture, and as having it as part of our architecture, not something else added to a meaningless and soulless object, built object. And the last one we can talk, as we can see this last movie, is the temporary architecture we did to launch the building. So we did this construction that lights up in the evening and creates this relationship of the plaza and the city, trying to mimetize a little bit of the project, but also creating something surprising for the landscape for this corner. So, well, thank you very much for your attention, and please let me know if you have any doubts or if you want to discuss any specific aspects. If you have any criticisms, and please feel free to speak freely.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this amazing lecture. It was really just so well put together, and your introduction, like with Brazil and the culture and the politics and just everything about it, was a great introduction, and the perfect projects for this lecture as well. So I'm going to open up the Q&A portion of this lecture. Everyone is welcome to put their questions in the Q&A portion on the bottom, or you can put it in the chat. But I do have a few questions to start off this part of the lecture. So you talked about different challenges you have with clients, as well as just site location and politics as well. So what are some of the most difficult challenges you've had with projects in regards to those things?
Well, something that is always a challenge in Brazil is the quality of labor and material. So this is something that is always a challenge. As you can imagine, we're a third world country with a high gap between rich and poor, and that means that we have a very bad qualification of our labor and of our workers, etc. So this is always a challenge. Also, as not being a rich country, we do have access to good materials and solutions, but they cost very expensive. They cost more expensive proportionally in Brazil than they would cost in Europe or America, for example. So the cost of labor in Brazil is rather low. The cost of materials and solutions here is very high. So we have to sometimes be very creative on how we can create rich spaces and rich environments, but not relying on very top-notch technology or materials, for example. Other challenges are, well, we have a very difficult market for architecture in Brazil, although it has grown considerably in the last decade. But people still do not understand exactly what architects are what are architects for? They understand that they think that our engineers can do it better. They understand that interior designers can do it as well. The thing is, interior design and engineering and architecture are codependent disciplines, codependent professions. We cannot think that architects can survive without interior designers, nor without landscape designers, nor without engineers, and etc. And the more we can think of our task or our challenge to build something as multi-faced, how can I say that?
Faceted.
Multifaceted task, the better it gets. So people, not only the clients, but also not only the professionals, kind of understand that it's through the bonds and through the cooperation of the complementary disciplines, complementary professions, that we can make very a better architecture itself.
Yeah. And sort of just to branch off of that question, from a lot of your projects, you got to utilize the site to your benefit. Like the first projects you showed us, where it was kind of just perfectly built into the landscape, it was built into the valley. Brazil uses, I know, a lot of wood because there's an abundance of wood material. So this question goes off of that. How does Brazil's climate affect your projects? I know that some of the projects that you build down there, we couldn't build up here in the Northeast because of the climate. And does Brazil's culture also have an impact on your projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not only because of climate that we can build open and generously open to terraces and to the outside, but it's also part of our culture as well. Brazilians are Latino type of culture that's very open and warm and welcoming and very non-reserved type of culture. Although we're, especially in São Paulo, made of different types of immigrants from other very reserved cultures, such as Germans or French or Italians. Italians are more Latino, but the thing is, I think that being a melting pot kind of created this type of culture here that welcomes everybody and kind of creates this sense that people have to work together to reach something better. So it's not a very individualist type of society in that sense. I don't think it's a rule. I don't think it's a norm. But in general, Brazilians are open and welcoming and kind of understand their part in society as something that should be composed with others. That doesn't, unfortunately, reflect in public space. People do not understand the role of public space as being part of everyone else's or everyone's property. Let's say that. So it's something that when we refer to architecture or property, people think that their own property is something that do not relate to the outside space. So their sidewalks are chaotic and they throw garbage on the street. They they don't really care about public ground, unfortunately. But socially speaking, people are very understanding of the possibilities of joining efforts and being together and etc. So architecture, in a way, kind of reflect this climate. Possibility of having more open spaces and integrated to the outside space. But at the same time, this reflects our culture of being together and having people at home or bringing people, meeting people outside, having, a barbecue outside and using the terraces and using the outside space. What I think it's a shame is that because we have this culture, although we have this culture of being outside and using the landscape, the outside space, we don't take too much care of our landscape and do not traditionally take much advantage of this fluidness and this continuity between inside and outside in our architecture. So in general, what we can see is a very mediocre architecture thought of as being an object on no matter what landscape. In that sense, we understand that landscape in a wider perspective is the cradle of any architecture we can do in a certain plot. Building in a plot is totally dependent on what you have around it, on where people walk, what do you see from where you see, where does the wind come from, where does the sun come from, where does the sun shine, and what are the possibilities to intervene positively in that landscape, being that a natural landscape or an urban landscape, bringing nature as part of a more how can I say, a blurred object that is not just the built part of it. So architecture for us here in FGMF is not about being physically a house or a space. Is what you get after you build the physical part of it. What does the void tell you? What does the empty area actually tell you in terms of quality, in terms of possibility of meeting people, or enjoying your stay at that specific space for that specific time. So bringing back to the first question about the challenges that I told you, that we have some restrictions concerning technology, materials, and etc. I don't really think this is so important actually, because building in Brazil is kind of making this is about the craft of not relying on technology or materials, on labor and etc., but building some magical void that people can use and can relate and can feel differently for studying, for meeting, for living, for working, no matter what. But you have to always pay attention in what's left from the construction. And in Brazil, if you don't take advantage of this void in continuation to what's outside, I think it's a pity. I think it's just a waste of opportunity. You have so many other places on Earth where you have the outside space as something more aggressive, something more arid and windy and cold and full of snow and etc. Then I can understand that building is something much more of a non-object that you use inside. I think building in Brazil is about building for using outside, not for using inside.
So one of our students asked, her first question, I think you touched upon, do you have any advice for students trying to be mindful of the existing environment as they design? I think you touched upon that. Her second question is, what do you think are the 3 most important factors to consider about a building site?
I think there are 2 ways to face this question. I think one of them is trying to understand how the architecture that is going to be built there is going to transform that environment. So this has to be always on the back of our heads when we start a project. When we start a project, we know what we're going to do there. It's a house, it's a building, it's a school. What is it? Trying to understand, at the same time that you analyze the site, trying to understand how the architecture that you're going to put there is going to transform the site at the same time. Some part of this analysis is more or less independent of what you're going to build. For example, where does the wind come from? Where does the sun shine? But this is not totally true. If you're going to do a high-rise building, for example, you're interfering on the wind and sun of your neighbors. So you have to understand these natural assets, but also understanding at the same time critically to bring it to the project, not only as a passive analysis, but also as an active way of transforming it positively. If, for example, you're doing a high-rise building that is creating a problem or creating a shade on the surrounding blocks and surrounding blocks, for example, and this may be unavoidable because you have to build this amount of square meters in this plot, and that means you have to create a tower with a specific geometry. But how can you compensate that? How can you create a form of reducing this impact by providing something else, by providing something more interesting for people that live there, for they use this area, for example. So bringing it back to your question, I think we have to analyze the surrounding aspects and the active intervention at the same time critically. But this analysis of the site, they are very different from, for example, an urban area of this last building that I showed you and the first house that I showed you. If we're talking about a natural environment, a raw and wild environment such as the first one, I think there's things that you have to understand that are different from the latter. So what are the main views? The proximity of the jungle to the house. What do you discover on the paths throughout the plot, for example? The color of the surrounding areas, which is mostly green and blue. So how does it affect architecture? How will that bring a component to the final proposition of the architecture that you're going to build there? What colors and materials can you bring into this architecture that are going to create a dialogue with that? Topography is essential. What type of intervention do I want or do I have to do on a specific topography to fit, for example, underground garage, multiple story underground garage, or no underground garage at all? What type of intervention in this topography? Topography is a very sensitive element in terms of analysis. How can we take advantage of what's there? Is it a slopey plot? How can I use this as part of the identity of the pre-existence, and how can I transform it in part of my architecture? So architecture is not about getting a plot and bulldozing it and building an object inside of it. It's also about taking advantage of its original situation, of the original constitution to create something different. I also like to understand how people use the city before and after. So when you analyze a specific plot in an urban situation, you can look at how people use this plot, this area, but you have also to think of how people will use this area once your architecture is built, how your architecture will transform the behavior of those who are intending to use the building or just passing by or passing through. Because the architecture that we build there, the construction that we do there can create more, a bigger flow of people, can stimulate people to walk there. So the sidewalks that we have already in this specifically environment, are they enough considering the amount of people that are expected to be there in the future? And it's not only a matter of capacity. It's not only a matter of being wider or narrower. Is a matter of how do I want it to create more or less flow of people specifically in this corner, in this spot, in this area instead of the other one in the same architecture. Analyzing the environment, or analyzing the surroundings and the environment is never a passive analysis. It's always an active way of thinking about how you can transform it positively, and always thinking about the negative impacts that your architecture may have in the surrounding areas and neighborhood or natural landscape, and how to create something good out of it.
Yeah, perfect. So we are coming to an end. I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. It was a pleasure to have you as our guest speaker. Muito obrigado, senhor Gimenes, por essa apresentação. And I hope everyone enjoyed this lecture. And I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lorena, and thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everybody that held to the last minutes of our chat. Hope to hear from you soon. And if you come to Brazil, don't forget to visit us at our office, and maybe we can discuss architecture in a more personal approach. Thank you so much.
Of course, I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.